Hello everybody, my name is Ray, this is Ray's Nintendo Talk, and today, it is finally time to review Princess Peach Showtime. Peach re-enters stage right for a 19-year delayed encore to her first game, Super Princess Peach, which released on the DS. Super Princess Peach was a fairly basic 2D platformer that sold about 1.7 million copies. Nintendo was pumping out a ton of 2D platformers at the time, and when they saw the modest sales of Peach's first game, they likely shelved the idea of ever making a sequel. And in what is almost certainly the Switch's last year, Nintendo is giving Peach a second chance with a more unique style of gameplay. I love seeing this because I believe Nintendo should experiment with all sorts of wacky ideas while they have such a large install base. The idea of Peach going to a theater, being the star in a ton of different leading roles, and doing a bunch of different missions with a whole lot of gameplay variety seems incredibly charming. So in the 2023 September Direct, when Nintendo revealed Princess Peach Showtime, I was immediately filled with mixed emotions. I felt optimism to see Nintendo actually doing something unique with their IP, but I also felt dread at how they appeared to be executing the idea. Peach has always been the damsel in distress end goal in every Mario game, and since the Mario franchise is Nintendo's biggest moneymaker, they don't want to mess with that formula or the characters in that franchise in fear of damaging their brand. Making a Peach game around those stipulations is understandably difficult to do. Peach has always been a kind and gentle personality that Nintendo hasn't been too interested in diversifying. It wasn't even until Super Mario Odyssey that they truly began to develop her character. In that game's final cutscene, she rejects both Mario and Bowser's hand in marriage to go and travel the world with her friend Tiara. After that cutscene, you find Peach in every single kingdom, dressed in different outfits that match the theme of that kingdom. Those various outfits are where I believe the inspiration for Princess Peach Showtime began. All of the above is why I felt optimism about this game, but on the other hand, it seemed very clear to me that this game had not been in the oven long enough, even after we got a whole bunch more footage of the game. The visuals appeared half-baked, and the gameplay looked like a bunch of mini-games crammed together with an overall lack of depth. But there is only one way to find out if my worries are warranted. Let's jump into my official review of Princess Peach Showtime.
If it's not fun, why bother?
That timeless quote is from former Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aimé. It asks the question, if we aren't genuinely enjoying a game, then why would we ever play it? The philosophy behind this is one Nintendo has followed for decades in developing their fantastic games. We don't play Mario games because we are totally invested in the story of Bowser kidnapping Peach again and again and again. We play Mario games because of how fun it is to control Mario. We love the feeling of running and jumping around, using unique abilities and power-ups to interact with the environment, and challenging ourselves to do crazy tricks. It comes back to that feeling present in most Nintendo games. It feels good to land a game-winning hit in Super Smash Bros. It feels good to finally catch that stringfish in Animal Crossing. It feels good to think up an idea that you thought would never work in Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild and see the game reward your creativity. If a game isn't fun, then why bother? This is the question I found myself asking over and over again while playing Princess Peach Showtime. The game begins with a cutscene of Peach walking through a grassy field until she finds a random pamphlet of a grand theater. Peach decides to go and see what it's all about, and when they arrive, the staff members named Theets are in a tizzy for some unknown reason. Then, out of nowhere, the main villain of the game, Madame Grape, appears through a portal and messes up everything. Peach then meets her new ribbon friend, Stella, who asks for Peach's help to fix everything. Peach agrees to help get things back to normal, and the game begins. The point of the game is to go through every floor and restore the plays back to normal. In each play, you become a different version of Peach, and each version gives you a different ability. You use those abilities to defeat your enemies, restore the plays, and once you finish a floor, you can unlock a boss fight. Rinse and repeat 4 different times until you get to the top floor. There, you learn that before you can access the door to Madame Grape, you have to go to the basement and save all the actor Theets Madame Grape locked up. Once you free them all, they give you the Sparkla power necessary to open the final boss door and beat the game. But before we talk about the final boss, let me go back to the beginning. Before you get to the top floor, you have to go through 4 different floors. These floors serve as mini hub worlds for all the different plays you restore back to normal. There are 4 plays on each floor that you have to restore to unlock the door to that floor's boss. But in these boss fights, instead of using any of the abilities from one of the plays to take down the boss, you are forced to use your ribbon friend Stella to defeat them. The main point of the game is mysteriously stripped away from you just when you anticipate that things were gonna get good. The boss designs remind me of 2D Mario games because each of them were incredibly easy to defeat. There is no thinking involved whatsoever, and simply standing still is enough to dodge most of their attacks. The bosses are all themed off of animals, and that leads me to think Madame Grape might be some kind of ringmaster? Perhaps her motivation is to destroy the theater and create a circus. They all have decent designs, but that ultimately doesn't make up for the lack of good gameplay behind them. Now we get to the real problem I have with this game. The abilities you use in each play are comically easy and simple. Peach can turn into 10 different on-stage versions of herself. Sword Fighter Peach, Patissiere Peach, Cowgirl Peach, Ninja Peach, Detective Peach, Figure Skating Peach, Dashing Thief Peach, Mermaid Peach, Mighty Peach, and Kung Fu Peach. All of the abilities boil down to just pressing the B button, and none of them have much depth. The one ability I actually liked a lot was Patissiere Peach. Sure, it's just as easy as all the other abilities, but I found myself enjoying the opportunity to think about what I was doing, rather than just mashing the B button like with every other ability. Patissiere Peach lets you use icing to construct various patterns on large cakes, and it also lets you bake cookies. Knowing you're under a time limit and seeing some of the icing recipes was such a delight to experience. Sometimes I'd see a recipe for the icing, and I'd be like, "You want me to do what?" And while baking the cookies only requires you to mash the B button, there is a time limit, and more of a clear objective you work towards compared to the other abilities where most of the time you just hit enemies and don't really know why. There is one section in Patissiere Peach where you have to bake a ton of cookies before the Sour Bunch breaks through the barriers, and I actually lost and had to restart a few times. I also just love Patissiere Peach's idle animation. I mean, look at how funny this is. There's one time that this baker is so distraught with the Sour Bunch, and Peach is just standing there tapping her feet with a smile listening to this random guy talk. It was genuinely hilarious. I always picked Patissiere Peach first whenever the play appeared on a floor. The rest of the abilities, however, are not so joy-inducing. Sword Fighter, Cowgirl, Ninja, and Mighty Peach boil down to just pressing B buttons to defeat enemies in one hit. Kung Fu Peach is just pressing B whenever prompted to hit the enemies, and Figure Skating Peach is just pressing B to twirl or A to jump. Dashing Thief Peach and Mermaid Peach are a bit more unique than the others, but I found neither interesting enough to say I really enjoyed them. Mermaid Peach lets you control fish in the background of your environments to hit different objects, and it also lets you sing directionally when prompted to deter attacking fish. Dashing Thief Peach gives you a grappling hook and the ability to unlock doors. The grappling hook is only ever used in the most basic of ways, and the locked doors might as well be unlocked as they add no substance to the overall experience. The last ability is Detective Peach. Detective Peach lets you roam around a crime scene and hold B to use your strike of intuition on objects or characters. And I had high hopes for this ability because I assumed the point was to use critical thinking skills to discover clues. But I ended up grasping at straws for what the game was trying to tell me rather than doing any real detective work. I either figured out the solutions immediately or got completely stuck and just had to guess my way through. There's always the possibility I just totally missed the clues, and this is the best ability in the game, but I am unfortunately more inclined to believe my frustration stems from poor level design. Overall, there are 30 levels, and each one will take you about 10 to 15 minutes. Even though there are 30 levels, because most of the abilities are deprived of death, you are essentially repeating the same level every time the game reuses an ability. So in reality, there are only about 20 levels where you're asked to do anything new or different, since you reuse each ability twice. But wait, I mentioned earlier you have to go to the basement of the theater to access the final boss. In the basement, you have to play 10 more levels using the exact same abilities again. So really, there are only 10 levels that provide you with gameplay you haven't seen before. All of the abilities are too similar or too shallow to justify playing through them 3 different times. And the weird thing is, Nintendo has done incredibly innovative things with very simple concepts in the past, so I was honestly shocked to find how boring it was to play through this game. After you beat all 30 levels, a cutscene plays in which all 10 feats you saved in the basement give you their sparkle power. During this cutscene, I had a glimmer of hope that the final boss would be using each ability in some cool way to damage and eventually defeat Madame Grape. I imagined striking her with my sword, then blasting her with frosting, and singing to surround her with fish. That would have been such a great way to end the game. But of course, instead of a grand finale that makes sense, we are given one last underwhelming new ability. Once the 10 feats you saved in the basement give you their sparkle power, you somehow gain the ability to fly and throw light rays out of your hands. You literally just fly around Madame Grape and mindlessly blast her until you win. She barely even attempts to block or attack you, so this fight is incredibly easy. But the game won't let you be done yet because there is a second final phase. This last phase finds Madame Grape for some unexplained reason turning incredibly massive Bowser style and sinking the entire theater into the ocean. You then defeat her by flying around and hitting her with your light rays once more. In the final cutscene, Peach uses the sparkle power to somehow reconstruct the entire theater in seconds, saving the day. And speaking of cutscenes, a vast amount of my disappointment with this game comes from how rough it looks at times. It's ironic I loved Patissiere Peach because this game needed to bake in the oven for at least another year. Nintendo is incredible at making the most out of their somewhat limited hardware they use, so I was left puzzled at how rushed the game visuals felt. It honestly reminded me of how Luigi's Mansion 3 looked in its initial reveal trailer, just without the glow up. I mean, this is the same console that runs beautiful games like Tears of the Kingdom and simplistic games like Animal Crossing, but they couldn't get this game to look any better than this? I am baffled at how bad this game can look and how awful the frame rate is. There is also something incredibly off to me about how Peach looks. Her skin texture almost seems grainy when you look close enough, and some of her outfits mirror that odd design choice. Even the cutscenes can look no better than Wii games at times, and there are times I totally believe that Super Mario Galaxy looked better than this, and that game came out in 2007. Although visuals are choppy a decent amount of the time, there is still a certain charm in the designs of Peach's different outfits. For example, Ninja Peach holds up little cardboard grass cutouts and has a scroll that blends her into the walls when she hides from enemies. And almost every bad guy, including the bosses, have little vertical strings connected to them, showing that Madame Grape has been the puppet master this entire time. Even on each floor, there's a visual of strings on the floor connecting the levels to the boss fights. There are so many great visual effects like this that really add to the charm and are very clever. There is a ton of thematic creativity and variety that makes me really sad the gameplay behind it just didn't click for me. The set pieces look great for the most part, and I really do think a game revolved around Peach going to a theater is a great idea, but I find the execution of the idea is where it all falls apart. It feels like a young development team at Nintendo had a basic conceptual idea for making a Peach game based around a theater, and to their surprise, it actually got greenlit. But then they found out the catch was they had to develop it outside of office hours, still had to work on other first-party titles, and were only given about a year and a half to make it. I genuinely think this game would have been much more enjoyable if the visuals were some of the best the Switch had to offer. But as it stands right now, the boring gameplay and half-baked visuals leads to a cycle of mediocrity that made me want to stop playing after the second floor. I also really struggled with the way Peach sounds. She has no vocal range whatsoever and is honestly way too quiet. You can never really understand what she's trying to say, even when listening really closely. In fact, while I was writing the script for this video, I came upon this very relatable Instagram reel.
Well, shucks. Thank you.
I heard whale sharks again, I swear on my life. I was trying so hard. I'm like, okay, like actual words. Whale sharks.
I'm sure the voice actress is 100% capable of showing vocal emotion and bringing her characters to life, but whoever was giving the voice direction baffles me with their choices. Heck, even during the mermaid sections where the whole point is vocal inflection, the actress is very clearly not Peach's voice and sounds like the most generic opera singer they could find. The music is one thing that will never fail me in Nintendo games. This game's soundtrack does a great job of encapsulating each of the play's vibes. Most of it is orchestral, which reminds me of real-life theaters that have live orchestras in that little pit up front. It does exactly what it needs to do, and it's totally understandable why no one track is above the others due to the game's thematical variety. Before I wrap this review up, there are a couple of miscellaneous things about this game I would like to cover. One thing I didn't talk about in the gameplay section is a mode called Rehearsals. After clearing each floor, there will be a feat that offers you an arcade-style mode, where the goal is using different abilities to get the highest score. I only did this once on the first floor and immediately was uninterested in the rest. The last thing I wanted was the opportunity to play more with these abilities, but I felt I should talk about it just to cover everything. There's also a shop on the first floor that allows you to change up Peach's dress in exchange for coins you pick up in each level. You unlock different dress patterns just by beating levels, and they let you change up Stella's ribbon color too. On the surface, this is a fun addition reminiscent of Super Mario Odyssey's shop, but in practice, it is almost immediately rendered completely useless. Unlike in Super Mario Odyssey, where when you change your outfit, it stays that way no matter what, even in cutscenes, in this game, you only get to wear your customized dress for a few minutes before getting an ability that totally changes your outfit. And if the level you pick is one where you already unlocked that ability, you automatically start that level off with the ability outfit on. Even the final boss dress she wears completely ignores your custom dress pattern. Unfortunately, the shop is just another aspect of this game. I see the vision, but am left utterly dumbfounded at the poor execution. The last thing I want to talk about now is the game's price. Oh, Nintendo, some things never change. You want me to tell you what I think of this game's price, huh? You want me to tell you my thoughts on this $60 game, huh? The fact that this game is being sold in stores as we speak for $60 is a deep and personal insult to me. It is an insult to every gamer that has ever even considered buying this game. People that don't even know this game exists can't help but feel grumpy at this price. No, my friends, this game is not worth $60. Just knowing there are humongous masterpiece games like Breath of the Wild or Smash Bros. Ultimate on this console that charge you the same amount as this game fills me with a visceral rage. Even $40 would look steep compared to those games. I know this is a sign of the times with brand new games starting to be released at $70 on next-gen hardware, and technically Nintendo is doing us a $10 favor, but man, did it feel disgusting to pay $60 for this game. I am extremely mixed on how I want this game to perform sales-wise. I want Nintendo to see good sales numbers and be really motivated to make a much better game that stars Peach. I want them to use a core development team on making a great game that is actually fun and takes her character development seriously. At the same time, I really don't want this game to do well because of how horrible it seemed to be. But Nintendo might see the poor sales of this game and not want to branch out with new franchises in the future, ignoring the fact that people didn't buy this game because it was Peach, but because it was just a bad game. It's not broken or buggy, the loading screens don't take long. It's not the worst game ever made by any stretch. In fact, there is a ton of potential with this idea. It just needs more love and care. It needs to have that Nintendo feel to it, and most importantly, it needs to be fun. Because after all, if the game isn't fun, why would I bother? Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I genuinely appreciate your support, and believe it or not, from my 3,600 word script, this was my first ever review, and I'm stoked to get this channel off the ground. Please let me know your thoughts about this game or my review down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you're interested, I just did a video on the problem with modern Mario Party that I highly recommend you go check out. Thank you so much for watching Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day, y'all.